Welcome to Rauta, and this time I have a review album which is a little bit older, actually from year 2020. This one comes from all the way from Colombia by a band called Vitam et Mortem, which is on a Metal Archive site translated as Life in Death. Well, if you're pretty much basic familiar with Latina language, that totally makes sense. Now, as you can see here on Metal Archive site, this has been labeled previously as death slash folk metal. Now, I must say I'm not familiar with the previous works of the given band, so all the way skipping to the album number 6 called El Río de la Muerte. Now, if my Spanish is not totally rusty, I mean this means River of Death. And as you can see, indeed, there are a few albums before that, some singles, and also some split single releases after this one, given that this is already 3 years old, give or take. Now, later on, this band has been labeled as death metal, which I think is particularly true with El Río de la Muerte. However, I would say this is definitely, like the corpse paint might give you an idea, more like Black Death. Death Black doesn't really matter in which order you mention those given genres, because this is more like 50-50. Some parts are definitely more on the death metal side, that is melodic death metal, mind you, not exactly your next Cannibal Corpse or Obituary or, Swedish death metal, but melodic death metal, and some parts are really definitely more on the black metal side. This is a curious case because in so many ways there is some kind of a Greek warmth with the given album. Now, those who know what I mean when I say Greek warmth are already familiar and probably picking up names in their head. But in case you're not, I mean bands like, Zemial, Varatron, Rotting Christ and that stuff. Very, very different than Nordic kind of black metal that is more grim and kind of evil and dark in general. Whether we're talking about, bands like Dark Throne or Dark Funeral, Marduk or Dissection, you get the idea. But Vitam et Mortem is more like kind of this warm feeling, which totally makes sense. As much as Greek black metal is about all that Mediterranean feeling, and that is very, very different climate, and as such inspiring in different ways than Nordic black metal. Vitam et Mortem coming from Colombia, I mean, it makes also a lot of sense coming from warmer place, and obviously it's a good thing that they let their own atmosphere seep into the music. I mean, that's the part of which I think is enriching music. You have the different vibes instead of just like, let's copy some Norwegian black metal and make it sound like it's one of those standard things. Now, I think the experience of the band kind of also shows throughout this album, given how good the production actually is here. I mean, all the songs have the kind of a support from the production, which is in essence, with the powerful guitars and drums and all that stuff. So there's not like, hey, this would be working better if only the production was like top notch and all. So the good things being said, in terms of production and also this atmosphere, the album is actually pretty likable. Now, for the downsides of this album, I could name a few smaller things. Overall, I would say songwriting isn't too shabby. There are ideas where the band is almost like, this is gonna nail it. This is gonna do this and that with the better parts of the album, be it some killer melodies or some riffs or individual ideas here and there. But it's almost like lacking focus. Like you have some clean vocal parts, which is okay, of course. I mean, unless you just want to go growly or raspy all the way through. And then you have this kind of a black metallic approach to vocals. You have also the death metal growliness. So it's more like, yeah, let's try to cater to all the needs at one go, which is not going to work that well unless you are really, really liking just everything. Now it seems in terms of songwriting and various ideas, be it clean vocals or whatever extreme metal styles, it's more like trying to serve you with a buffet table, which isn't exactly serving any people who are looking for a certain kind of a more focused approach. I mean, if you're into black metal, you kind of want to go full in black metal. There are people who like more black death metal combinations. Nothing wrong with that, but this is not even that. It's almost like having too many ideas and not able to just figure out which ones to remove, which one to include, and all that stuff. Like, the saying probably, coming from literature especially, but also applying to music, movies, whatever, kill your darlings. Sometimes you just have to give your certain ideas let go. Either meaning when you go public and publish that music, you just like, okay, it's out of our hands. That is one thing, but in this case, I mean the context being like full of various ideas which are not necessarily so compatible with each other. It's more like sometimes whenever you have this certain idea but it doesn't really fit the puzzle, just save it for the later on. Kill it for the time being. Don't include it forcefully. Because now it seems this is more like a mess. Kind of like a salad where it has those weird ingredients you don't even want to have there to begin with. So all I'm saying, this album could be so much more. The potential is right there. You have lots of interesting ideas, but none of the tracks exactly work that well. With the one exception, which is interesting because it's this Yo soy el siguiente muerto, which is a version of an older song. I think that's way more aggressive than the rest of the tracks, and that kind of stands out from the rest, but only to underline that, yeah, they did some better tracks previously, I guess. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad album, by no means, but the overall experience is kind of a lukewarm. So while there are some nice ideas here and there, the rest is just more like fillers. And when you have more fillers than good material, you know how it's going to go. It's more like, I kind of like some parts of the album more than the whole album. And I think that's really the problem with El Rio de la Muerte. So definitely worth giving a shot, but just don't expect too much because it's gonna be kind of a disappointment. Now, only if only the best pieces of this whole puzzle were used, I would say this could have been quite good of an MCD. I don't know, maybe with some 3 or 4 tracks, but as a 10-track full album, it's just too much of mediocrity and way too few really good ideas in the end. So there it is, 6 out of 10 for me. Not bad, not good, but something in between mediocrity in a nice package, so to say. So, links provided in the description box. If you want to get to know some Colombian death black, go ahead and listen to yourself. And if not, well, now you know the band more than before. Cheers and see you soon with more reviews coming away.